Mayor?
Thank you. Call to order. Marlene, roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Yaffe?
Present.
Councilmember Tricoche?
Here.
Councilmember Salver?
Virtually here.
Councilmember Reed?
Here.
Councilmember Leonard?
Here.
Vice Mayor Fuller?
Here.
And Mayor Bruder?
Here.
All present, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everybody, and hello, everybody who is on listening at, I think when we get to Marlene will let us know when we get to public comments, and at that time, right, Marlene, if somebody wants to say something, that's their moment, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So
So,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to help you out by reading the item. Item number 1 is discussion regarding a selection of an interim town manager to be effective May 7th, 2020.
Okay. So, open for discussion.
Always jumping.
Okay. Well, obviously, everybody knows that JC is leaving, and he has requested, I'm sure, JC, correct, that you've talked to everybody on the
Yes.
council?
Correct.
And instead of today, I would prefer if you left on Friday, giving whoever is the person from the staff to get together with you and be able to, make a transition that was easy once we decide who it is.
That's, I have no problem with it. That's fine. That's perfect.
Okay, so, well, Jordan or Isaac or Bob, anybody have Kelly?
Yeah, I'd like to make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Melissa to be interim manager, and we can discuss it.
Can I ask, is Melissa interested in taking on that role?
Here, can you guys see me?
No.
I can't
No.
see you now.
I don't know why my video's not working, but I'm
Because you're
here.
in your pajamas.
What?
Because you're in your pajamas.
No, I actually showered and got dressed today.
That's a lot of information.
Right?
I'm sorry.
That makes one of us.
But to answer your question, Elizabeth, I would be willing to do it, but I would need some support. Obviously, as your CFO, budget season is upon us. This pandemic, I'm working on projections for the rest of this year's spending, and there's just a lot of projects on the table. So, if the council is comfortable with assigning me as interim, I would need to discuss with you guys all at a later time the specific support I would need to serve successfully.
Melissa, why don't you generalize what it is that you think you're going to need so that the council has a general idea, not a specific idea, but a general idea of the support that you're looking for?
Well, my biggest concern is the budget, the CFO portion of my dual role. The budget is about to start next Friday, and that process takes me from May to August. So I would need someone. I would under my direction, and I would need someone to take over that project.
Do you have somebody in mind?
I know a few people. I haven't been able to reach out or connect with any of the people I know to see if they're available. So, that is the concern, but I did just start reaching out today. So probably know more tomorrow.
So Isaac, did you want to?
Well, I was going to say, is that, because, although Melissa was my first choice, but I think it sounds to me like that was an incredibly diplomatic maybe. and, you know, I also thought that Marlene might be a good, suitable replacement on a temporary basis, because if, you know, I think budgeting and the financial function is incredibly important, especially during this time, because we're going to need to, I think, do a little bit more work as far as forecasting. And, you know, we have no idea what the impact of this, you know, the episode, the COVID episode is going to have on our budget. So, you know, I mean, I think we should also consider Marlene if Melissa doesn't mind.
Well, my concern is that, you know, you're talking, Melissa, about bringing in somebody who's not currently employed by the town to undertake the task of working on the budget. Because that seems to me that there's a lot of catch up then, because you're so familiar. I mean, you know everything about the town and everything about the financials and so forth. I'm just not sure that that's the best way to go, is to have somebody who is not familiar with the town start working on the budget.
Yeah.
The
If I can-
person, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, if I can pop in with one thing. Here's the thing. I mean, Melissa, again, it's not a knock on your abilities, because quite honestly, we're relying on your abilities here.
Right.
But my thought process is, I have a problem with, you know, we're getting decimated in one section. I don't want to decimate another division, especially at the most key time of the year, with regard to budget. And this is going to be one of the more difficult budgets I can imagine that we're going to face, because we have a lot of unknowns. I'd have a problem hurting another division, because we need you, I think, in the finance department.
I'll get in line whenever you're ready, Stephanie.
I'm ready for you.
Okay, so the way I see it, we want to stay inside, and we have 4 department heads who would be candidates. Of course, Melissa is assistant manager, but she has really too much on her plate for this, to be realistic, and I'm hearing the same thing from many of you. Janice, HR director, also very busy and working by herself with no staff, and maybe this year we might even look at that. I talked to the building official, and of course, you know, by county ordinance, he cannot have 2 positions. So really, by pleasant default, I agree that Marlene should do it. At least Marlene has a very qualified deputy clerk who could serve in her stead. And I think it's in all of our best interests. She is uniquely qualified. She knows everything that's going on, and I think she could step in and do it immediately.
Okay, Elizabeth?
So I want to go back. Melissa, you were saying that you have a candidate that you would like to bring in to kind of help with this. Can you kind of flush through us what that would look like?
Well, without telling you who it is, because I haven't even spoken to him yet.
Right.
It is someone that has audited the town's books for the last 6 years. He is a finance director at another municipality, or assistant finance director, sorry. That also does consulting on the side. So this is not someone that I'm just picking out of account temps, or, you know, obviously I would never think of anyone that I don't think would be able to serve that position well. But whether he's available or not, it's up in the air.
Next follow-up question. So do you feel that either of you feel that having JC on until Friday is going to give you guys enough time to get what you need in order to start to step in whatever that role is?
I do.
Yeah, JC is already said he would be available. But JC, you know, we have his number. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask real quick. We were talking about the possibility of Marlene, but Marlene, is it something that you would want to do? That's the, I mean, I guess that's the number one question.
I would step in if you guys needed me. I've always had. I've worn many hats in this town, and it's a temporary one. So it's a temporary one, and I'm honored that you guys think of me. So yeah, I would be willing to do that.
Just to be clear, when I spoke with Colin Benzinger about the search, and I think, Colin, I think you might be on the phone call. I'd appreciate if you did come on. But when my conversation with him earlier was that we're looking at a potential of probably 4 months before we see a replacement, give or take, right around that timeline. If anybody had a different conversation with him, let me know, because his timeline, at least he shared, was obviously not only searching and finding somebody, but then they have to give the appropriate notice at their current position.
Then it takes some time to get used to being our town manager as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I am
Well-
here, and that is accurate. Colin Benziger.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Great, I'm working for you all again. What can I
Yeah,
say?
he's back.
I'm excited.
So Colin, how fast do you think, and can you explain what the process would be and how fast? I know you and I talked this morning and we said maybe 60 days, maybe, you know.
You're typically looking at about 90, I'm so sorry.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Colin, finish.
I was gonna, you're looking at typically, I mean, a typical process is 90 days, and then if you throw in another 30 days for somebody to give notice, and of course you have to negotiate a contract and move, it could be 4.5, 5 months. But you know, we can try and cut it as much as we can, but it's not going to, it'll be a couple of weeks maybe. It's not going to be like we can do it in 60 days and have somebody on board.
Well, so we're talking about a 5-month period of being in this position that we're in. Marlene, do you, and I mean, I don't know, Melissa, is this something off the record? I mean, is this something that you wanted to, Melissa, or is this something that you wanted to get past before we?
Oh, yeah,
I couldn't hear that.
yeah, I know.
Sorry. I said, so we're talking about a 5-month position, basically. And I want to continue on because I think that Elizabeth, if I'm wrong, basically you're asking her if she wants to do it or if she doesn't want to. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be clear. I agree with Jordan. I would like to see Melissa take the role. And with all respect to Marlene and her capabilities and her acumen, which are very apparent, I would like to see Melissa, I think, step into the interim role. And given that she has plans on how she's going to handle the additional workflow, I think that makes sense.
If I can say something, I believe that Melissa can do the job. Remember, she is the assistant manager. We pay her to be the assistant manager. All things being considered, assuming JC wasn't leaving, assuming there wasn't a crisis, hypothetically, if JC had an accident or was in the hospital or something happened to him, Melissa would be the manager because she is the assistant manager. We pay her to be the number 2. That is her role that she's been for the last year. Unfortunately, there is a crisis. Unfortunately, it is budget time. No doubt about that. But as manager, it is her authority and her responsibility to task other people to help her in achieving her goals. It's really not that she has to do everything herself, but that she's responsible. And that's what we're paying her to do, to be responsible. And if she needs to bring someone else on board to help with finance, that's great. If she needs to task someone on the staff already to be interim assistant manager, she can do that too. She has a lot of options. The question is who to make interim manager, and it's very clear. You make the assistant manager. That's your job.
Jordan,
Yeah.
if I can say something here, the problem is these are not normal times. And when you talk about her being able to bring on somebody, and again, I'm not knocking Melissa's ability, I'm counting on it. And she definitely has to be a candidate for the permanent position as well. But the idea right now that she can bring somebody else on, we don't know for sure. We're trying to pick someone potentially right now with the open-ended question as to whether or not she actually does have somebody who can come in and cover budget. That's a problem to me. Not to mention the fact that she can't interview, she can't go out to other people in, she can't necessarily convince them to come in and get used to our economics of the town. And if she calls someone now after this meeting and says, you're familiar, but can you come in? And they say, well, I can't because I'm already committed to budgets for other cities. Then where are we? So that's my problem with it, is the timing and the fact that we're not in a normal situation.
Well,
Would anybody, oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, I understand where you're coming from. It's just that I believe she can find this person will take the position. I believe that she'll be able to task someone to be assistant manager on an interim basis. I believe she will excel at this. And if God forbid she couldn't, we could always turn around and make Marlene or someone else the interim manager. I think we're paying her. We've tasked her for the last year to be assistant manager. She should be given the opportunity to do her job. And if something unforeseen happens, we can always have another meeting in a week. There's no reason why we can't. There's no excuse because it's all virtual.
Would anybody consider going outside of keeping everybody, because we're such a small.
Can't hear you, Stephanie.
No, I don't think so.
What did she say?
He's the Matrix there.
Yeah, I know, right?
I couldn't hear what she said.
This is Frank Simone. I think what she had said was there any interest in going outside the town?
No.
Y'all need headphones,
right? I think Stephanie really should be in front of a computer, not driving her car.
Singing, actually.
But
Be at the council meeting instead of in my car.
All right, let me just respond a moment to Jordan's comments. If you remember, and I hate, we hired Melissa as the CFO, and JC pulled her into a role as the assistant manager not too long ago, while maintaining her role as CFO. I mean, I think the notion of bringing in people now from the outside, I think flies in the face of everything that we really need to do as far as budget, budget and cost, cost saving measures and things like that. I think, that kind of blows it out of the water for me. And if we can, leave Melissa doing her CFO work, which she has said at this meeting is going to be fairly overwhelming of a task in and of itself, and we have internal staff that can cover the interim manager position, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer.
I'll just express the same concern again, as Melissa said, you have somebody in mind, and it sounds like somebody who's certainly qualified to do the budget work if that person has done auditing work for the town for the last 6 years and has, obviously has governmental experience. We're just a little bit, we're up in the air today because you have not approached the person for understandable reasons, and we don't know what that person is going to say. I think it's I have no doubt at all about your qualification to serve as acting or interim manager. I just want to make sure that everything gets done that needs to get done. I was talking to JC, I don't know whether it was today or earlier in the week and so forth. I mean, we have some, we do have some financial issues at the moment as it is. And we're looking at, employees and so forth. So, I don't know what it would cost to bring in somebody on an interim basis to do the budget work. Any idea, Melissa, like what we're talking about?
I would think there's an hourly rate, and I don't know. I can probably get you a number. Let me just do the math.
In the meantime, can I ask a question? I have a question for Marlene. Marlene, how often do you go to town hall?
I've been coming in here about 3 days each week.
Mm-hmm. And Marlene, are you coming to town hall at all? I'm sorry, Melissa, are you coming into town hall at all?
I haven't come this week. Well, I came in yesterday to get some things for the audit, but before that, I was coming in maybe 2 or 3 times a week. So the number I came up with, it's probably gonna be around 20,000. Higher or lower, but probably a little higher.
Thank you for doing that calculation.
So, okay, so we're talking about 30,000, about 30, let's say 30,000, just to have a cushion. So where does that leave us, ladies and gentlemen? What is the pleasure of the council? Do we want, go ahead, Jake, Jordan.
Well, I made a motion, so if someone wants to second it, they can second it and we can vote on it or we cannot. But I already made a motion, so.
I think Elizabeth, I think seconded it already.
Oh, she did? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. So if you want, we can vote on it.
We can, so, all right, roll call. Marlene.
Okay. Councilmember Yasi?
I'll vote yes with a qualification. I mean, I want to know by the end of the week, Melissa, you know, whether you have somebody lined up. If not, I want another meeting. I mean, let me step back for a minute and whether Jordan and Elizabeth would agree to amend the motion that if we don't have somebody in line to do the financials, to work on the budget by Friday, then Marlene would serve as the interim manager. And I don't want to drag this out.
This Friday, like 2 days from today.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that, I mean, Melissa, can you reach out to this person today, tomorrow, Friday, find out whether this person's available, whether this person has any interest?
Yeah, he's actually supposed to call me today after work.
What happens if they change their mind?
What?
I mean, you know, they could say yes, and then something next week comes back and says, well, you know what, I can't, something, it's too much work for me to finish in this time period. That's my worry.
Okay, I have something also.
So again, so mine would be a qualified yes if the person who made the motion, the second, would agree to amend the motion so that if we can't, whether it's Friday or Monday, whatever it is, lock in somebody who's willing to do this work, who Melissa believes is competent to do the budget work, then Marlene would become the interim manager or acting manager.
So can I understand something? And I guess this has to be answered by Melissa and Marlene. If Melissa was not the interim manager, we would not have to pull in anybody from the outside, and all the work would get done, and we could save the town $20,000 or $30,000. Am I understanding this correctly? Like if Melissa just does her CFO work and Marlene becomes the interim manager, we don't have to spend a penny. We can do everything that needs to be done, including management and budget work, without spending a taxpayer dollar. Is that a proper assumption on my part?
Sounds like it to me.
Yep, it is.
Okay. So, I mean, I love and respect Melissa. She's a consummate professional. She has awesome credentials. She would make a great manager. But I think under the current circumstances, my vote is going to be absolutely no, because I want to save the taxpayers $20,000 or $30,000, because we can get the job done with the great staff that we have currently.
Okay, so can I go back for a minute then? I agree with Isaac under the circumstances. I think Melissa totally qualified, but if it's a $30,000 expenditure, which we don't have to incur, I think that makes sense. And Melissa can do, you're excellent at the budget work as well as other administrative work, but you can take care of the budget. So.
I'd like to say that I agree with Isaac, and I think Melissa is trying to accommodate us, and you guys should just withdraw the motion, because I don't even want to have to vote no for anything Melissa related. She shouldn't be the one doing it. We can see where this is going. Let's just, withdraw it, make a motion for Marlene, and see what happens.
Jordan, do you want to withdraw your motion?
I'll withdraw it, but I couldn't disagree more, because The manager's position is the most important position in the town. I mean, we're spending almost that much money just on the professional search to find a new manager. I mean, it's not about being the cheapest. It's about making sure that we're putting the best person possible, and having the person who's the assistant manager become interim manager is the best decision, because that's how the system is designed. That's why we all have always had an assistant manager since I've been on the council. That God forbid if something happens, you do have a backup. Now, it's not the best circumstance, but it's how it was designed. And having her admit and say, I need some help to make sure that I can delegate my job is fine with me. I think the money that we're going to save by not paying JC more than washes the $20,000-$30,000. It's not like we're spending money. We're actually probably going to save money based on not paying for a manager.
No, for me, it's not about the money. It's not
sorry.
about the money. It's about that we have a clerk's office and she's got a full deputy, 2 full-time people. And I remember when Melissa had to get with Mr. Short the first couple of months. So now we're talking about bringing in a total stranger. If we go with Marlene, we can keep all in-house people who already know our town.
Well, I disagree, but you know.
So are you withdrawing your motion?
I'll withdraw it, but I couldn't disagree more. And I think that I don't think that this is the right decision for the town. I think Melissa, you know.
So noted, duly noted.
I'll make
Can I make a motion for Marlene?
No, you can't. You the.
Oh, yeah, okay, Isaac, go ahead.
I'll make the motion to appoint Marlene as our interim town manager.
I second it.
And by the way, she'd have to resign as clerk. She can't be both.
Right.
That's correct.
Right. I was
On
saying,
an
so we
interim
would say,
basis.
to the same time we.
I would not need to resign. I would ask that Alba be appointed as interim.
Right,
clerk.
that's what I was gonna say. We have
Right, but she can't be
part
clerk.
of the motion, it's gotta
And I
be,
would
that
request-
we're also putting
and I would
Alba as
request
the
that-
clerk.
Yeah, and I would request that the council would guarantee that I can go back to my job. I want to go back to being the clerk. This is only something that I would do to step in, like I have done in the past. I have been the assistant to the town manager. That was my first job before being the clerk. I have been the deputy clerk. I've been the director of clerk compliance. I've been the community services director. Whatever the town has needed me to step in and do, I have done. And Melissa and I get along beautifully. We don't have an issue. We work together. We'll get through. It's going to be more like people working together than, you know,
You've been
anything.
acting. You've been acting town manager. There were circumstances where you've been acting town manager.
Right.
You've signed reports as acting town manager.
And let's just be clear here. I mean, Melissa and Marlene are both perfectly qualified to step into this role. I mean, you know,
Correct.
I don't have an issue with that. I mean, I'm not concerned that Marlene can't do it. I'm not concerned that Melissa can't do it. We need to do what's in the best interest of the town financially and otherwise at this point. And it just sort of makes sense, you know, based on this whole discussion we've had, that Marlene can step in. Appa will be acting or interim clerk. Melissa, you'll take care of the budget and assist Marlene and everybody else in the town hall
Right.
and the administration, and we'll go forward.
This is a vote of confidence in everybody, including Alba as well. So
Correct.
that's really the way I see it.
Do we want to add to the motion, Isaac, that includes that Alba will become the deputy and that Marlene absolutely has the ability to step back in her position? She retains that right?
Yes, I will make any amendment that Frank can recommend, as long as it's, you know, kosher and legal and appropriate. And
There's no pork. There's no pork in it.
Right, no, that factory's closed.
Yeah. So the motion would be to appoint Marlene as the interim town manager, to have Alba step into her position as the interim town clerk. And then upon the appointment of a permanent town manager, Marlene will go back to being the town clerk and Alba will go back to being the assistant town clerk,
And effective as of what, 5:01 PM Friday?
the 24th, correct?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's my motion.
Second, second that.
Thank you. Marlene, can you please take a roll call?
Okay. All right, Councilman Yaffe,
Yes.
Councilmember Chicoche. Councilmember Chicoche,
4.
Councilmember Salver,
Or,
Councilmember Reed,
4,
Councilmember Leonard,
Against.
Vice Mayor Fuller,
4.
Mayor Berger.
4.
And Mayor, as a housekeeping issue, and I remember when Ron Wasson left after 30 days, I don't remember there being a council decision, but it treated him as if he had worked the full 60 days. I would assume it's the same for JC, who was leaving on the 24th, who will also be treated as if he worked the full 60 days for the purpose of his notice period, correct?
I agree to that.
That's fine.
Yep.
I agree. Absolutely.
Sure.
so do we
Mayor,
have to- Frank, do we have to make a motion? Sorry to interrupt.
yeah, I believe a motion would be appropriate
Okay,
to
so,
memorialize that.
I'll make a motion that we accept JC, the town manager's resignation letter, and that we allow him to take whatever time is left in the 60-day period, off, and he could, even though he works until Friday, he can, all his benefits that are vested to him should go to him as if he, stayed on for the full 60-day period.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, Frank?
Okay, that passes.
Mayor, do you want to take any public comment?
Sure.
Any member of the public wishes to
He
comment?
has to say, oh, now that Tom Brady and Gronkowski are coming, who gives a shit? We're talking about life and death here.
Excuse me?
Who's that?
I'm a Bucks fan, so that's music to my ears. You know,
That one mute, I guess.
that really matters to me.
Okay, I'm unmuting. Give me just a few.
Is any member of the public wish to comment? And please keep it clean.
This might be a response song out of town clerk.
Hello, any member of the comment wishes to comment, a public wishes to comment?
I was trying to sell that 500,000 for your dad.
Okay, hearing none.
Okay,
Hearing none,
everybody-
how about mute?
Okay.
There's another item on the agenda?
Yeah, and it's a request from our office, and quite honestly, I think I had cut and paste too much, but the only matter for a shade meeting is the Conan Graham litigation, as it's the only item that's an active piece of litigation. That litigation concerns the small bridge on the Bal Harbor side, and the it was a bid for $98,000, and before they did any work on the actual bridge, we got a change order for $48,000. So that resulted in litigation, which they filed a complaint, we filed a counterclaim, they filed a proposal for settlement. So we need to have a shade meeting at a subsequent closed door meeting to discuss that litigation matter and to see whether we can resolve it.
Frank, when did they tender the PFS?
16 days ago, but we're going to do a motion to extend it. Quite honestly, I've asked them for multiple settlement offers. Their PFS is the full amount of their claim. inclusive of attorney's fees and costs. And it was done before our counterclaim too. So it really has very little effect. And also there's an attorney fee provision. So there's really no benefit to it.
Why do we need to have a meeting for this since we already, I mean, we can discuss it, obviously. I mean.
Well, we need to have, in order to frankly discuss ongoing litigation in our strategy, we really need to have a shade meeting. That's the only way we can do it.
But the other items, we don't need a shade meeting for the other items?
Correct, and we'll do that at a subsequent meeting.
All right.
And this would be, Frank, this would be a digital closed session.
Correct, which we can do. It's not the best, and quite honestly, I'm not crazy about it. We could do it sometime in May to make sure, if there's any ability to do it live, we could. There's no rush to this, in my opinion. We could even do it in June if we had to.
Are you talking about item C?
I'm talking about item 2B as in boy. It's I'm sorry, 2A, Conan Graham litigation. It's the only litigation matter, and thus it's the only item we can discuss at a shade meeting.
When are you thinking of talking about B and C?
B and C at our next meeting.
Okay, in May.
Yes.
Great.
So, Marlene,
Just let us know when.
yeah, Marlene and Alba, both of you will let us know when the
We will pull you guys.
Yes.
Well, actually, it'll be Alba doing it.
Yeah.
And then it will be announced at the next meeting because we have to announce it. So
yes.
It'll be announced.
Alba will be waiting for your phone call.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussions?
I do have a matter of concern that I want to bring to your attention.
Okay.
Back in March at the meeting, we asked Frank to give us an opinion on creating an ordinance to regulate the placement of fencing on waterfront lots. And he gave us his opinion. And since then that we've had to close the parks, we've had the pandemic, I have gotten calls from both islands and have observed really an incredible increase in activity. Our vacant waterfront lots have become de facto parks. There's offloading from boats. There's, playing with dogs. And I think we need to look into this again, Frank, with all due respect, if we need to, get another opinion or ask you to maybe look at it from a different direction. I think rather than protecting ourselves from liability, we're really not doing the right thing, and we're really ignoring a big hazard. These just like the vacant lot on the water that we now own, we stopped doing the farmers market there because of the potholes and being dangerous. So now we're allowing de facto parks that are not in the condition to have this amount of people, and they're not social distancing. They're gathering.
Just so I'm clear on that issue, we're talking about private property still.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Looks
that's
like, I think I saw that on West Broadview Drive around 102nd, 3rd, whatever it is over there. Looks like they put up a fence. I don't know who did it. I was walking the dog the other night and it looked to me like there was a fence, or that they'd started putting up a fence. Somebody.
Can we at least contact some of these owners and let them know, because I don't think they're even in town. If we make a suggestion and say that might be a prudent thing because of the increased traffic on them, would that be more acceptable?
It's my understanding that, I'm sorry, it's my understanding that the property owners this particular property owner has been contacted and has little to no interest in doing this to her, or I think it's her private property. So they are still private property rights. What I've advised Patrick with code enforcement is to make sure that we're having our police officers be vigilant and to give citations or otherwise warnings to folks who are congregating and not observing social distancing on private property as trespassers. certainly we have the police power to do it.
But Patrick is code enforcement?
Correct. But we've talked about this on a code enforcement level and on a better level, which is really to engage the police force. We are under an emergency order. We have the police power, even more so in this time. So we are certainly able to address it on that level. And
Well,
that's
just
what I've
so everyone
suggested.
knows, it's a daily issue. It's a daily hazard.
It's,
Can I say something, please? Two things. So my understanding on our initial discussion on this was that putting the fence up actually put the property owner at heightened risk for litigation was one of the components. Frank, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so then
because it's a maintenance issue.
number two, my thought is, and I'll tell you this. So I see Bob a lot. I walk the island probably 2 or 3 times a day with my kids and my dogs, and I can tell you, there's an enforcement difference. There are some officers that do stop and tell people, hey, you guys got to come off, it's private property. And then there's some officers that just drive by. And I've personally witnessed both. So I agree with Frank. I think if we could get with our police force and really have them actively engage. I'm not talking about punish people. I'm talking about talk to them. Hey, in this time, this is private property. Unfortunately, it's not a park. We know it's difficult, and really engage them in the dialogue and help them understand like what is all of our level of participation that needs to be in this.
Mayor,
Also, let me-
if I may, we have, I have spoken with our police department, and they are, if they haven't started already, they will be beefing up enforcement in that very matter itself.
Let me follow up also one more thing. As long as we're talking about enforcement, I have seen a significant increase in people that are, they're picking up after their dogs, but I guess they don't want to put the bags with the droppings into, or they don't want to touch the trash cans now. So they're dropping the bags all over the islands. We have to increase enforcement as far as that, because that's getting to be somewhat of a problem all over the place.
All right, move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good evening,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.